Hey everybody, welcome back. Craig Schaup here with George Thomas, our film critic from the Akron Beacon Journal. George is here, and unfortunately, for those of you waiting with bated breath on his review of Goat, George did not make it, but he does have some new reviews today, so we're very excited about that. George, you might have missed out on the best movie of 2026 by missing out on Goat there.
Somehow I doubt it, but okay.
But safety first. I'm glad you're safe, and I'm glad you did see some new things. It's a theatrical week release. This is a weird time in early February. We're just before the holiday season here. We're not getting a ton of movies released in the winter. Hollywood kind of takes a back seat a little bit, but they do have a new crime thriller, Crime 101. Chris Hemsworth stars, Mark Ruffalo, Barry Keoghan, Halle Berry. I mean, this is a great cast for
It's a great cast, yeah.
mid-February release. While I'm not a big fan of the title here, it seems like maybe this could be something worth watching this weekend if you're looking for a little bit less romance and maybe a little bit more action. What say you about Crime 101?
Oh, the romance came last week with Wuthering Heights, I guess. But
Well, that comes out this week.
does it? I thought
Yes,
it was
it
last
does.
week. Well, missed that one.
Well, it was a Warner Brothers movie, so of course you would miss it.
Of course. Crime 101 is a film I'd recommend that could be better. It's got flaws. The first pro that cast. I mean, you've got an Oscar nominee, an Oscar winner in Cleveland's own Halle Berry. Chris Hemsworth doing something different, capeless as just an average high-end jewel thief.
The average high-end jewel thief that looks like Thor that was chiseled out of granite, right? That average guy, right?
That average guy. Yes. And you've got Barry Keoghan, who's making his living playing psychopaths. So, and you know what? Overall, it's a good movie. Hemsworth stars as Davis, a mysterious jewel thief who plans his heist down to the last meticulous detail. And to give you some perspective on how that planning goes, he's the type of guy who stands at a disposable mat before he goes to make a heist, combs his hair to get all the dandruff off, any stray strands of hair, brushes down his body, gets into his clothes immediately, rolls that mat up, and he throws it out, and boom, the action begins. First heist is pretty thrilling. Now, and there are a couple bumps on the road. You get a sense of how he does things, and yeah, it's Bart Layton, the director, has created a nice little segue into what turns out to be a character study, more or less. Davis, as it turns out, I said he's a man of mystery. Let's just say he didn't have the best background and go with that. I forgot about Nick Nolte in this cast.
Yeah, I saw that in the trailer.
Yeah, he works with a guy named Money, a fence, who sells his wares for him, and they work on collaborating on these deals together. And Davis is getting antsy. He's ready to hit a certain number and be out. Now, of course, what heist film would be complete without the money score, right? That one is going to set him up forever. And he's casing it out.
You got to do the one last score. That's the rule.
That's the cliche in all heist movies.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, but that's fine. You expect that, it's part of the genre, if you will.
You go with it, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
And, Money can sense that he's ready to be done, to the point where he puts Amran, the psycho, played by Barry Keoghan, to tail him. And this psychopath basically screws up one job he had set up and starts following him around, eventually learning what the next job will be. And that's where Halle Berry comes in. She plays an an insurance executive, and I mean insurance executive to billionaires, who's frustrated because she's been led along all these years. She's been at her firm for 11 years. Has been told she'd make partner, and she hasn't. So Davis senses an easy mark as far as someone willing to provide him information for a cut of the proceeds. In the meantime, you have this grizzled cop, and Mark Ruffalo is making a living out of the
Yes.
grizzled law enforcement thing lately.
Yes,
If
he
you go
is.
back
Yeah.
to Task, a fantastic limited
Mhm.
series. Well, it's not limited anymore. It's gotten a second season, but it was supposed to be limited on HBO, where he was a grizzled FBI agent. He's on to the fact that there's a pattern to these robberies, and he's getting closer to discovering the identity of the thief. And I don't want to give away too much, but during all this, I mean, and the flaw that comes into play for me, and why I gave the movie a B minus. I couldn't give it a higher grade because if you're this high end jewelry thief who is looking for that one big score to move on in life, would you start a romance? He does. And to me, and I don't know if it's the source material, it's based on a novella by Don Wilson, a best-selling author.
Okay.
I don't know if that's from the source material or not. It just seemed, no, it didn't make sense to me. It might make sense to others, and I'm not anti-romance. Obviously, it's Valentine's Day this week, right?
Yeah.
But that provided an issue for me. Otherwise, the cast is fantastic. Hemsworth is surprisingly good because you're used to heaping dose of macho man when
Right.
he's, especially given what he's chosen to do as his profession, when he's confident in his profession, but he's not confident in any other aspect of his life. Halle Berry, fantastic as the put upon insurance executive who's finally learned that her company has been just messing with her, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And even the brief periods where Nick Nolte shows up, it's like gravelly voice and everything, still looking like Nick Nolte. I mean, at one point, he was one of the most highly sought after leading men in his career, and
Yeah.
at this time, I should say, and it was good to see him on screen again. And you could tell age is kind of setting in.
Yeah.
That's okay. He still has the chops. And then there's Keegan, and it's like after seeing him hump a grave in Saltburn, nothing surprises me about any character he portrays.
Well, and he's the Joker in the Matt Reeves Batman verse.
So there you go. And he gives typical Barry Keoghan psycho performance. There we go.
Yeah.
Like I said, overall I gave it a B minus. It's visually very appealing. The chase sequences are well shot. And what I really like about it is it's kind of a love letter to both the upper class of LA and the lower class, with a definitive message there about who's eating whom, shall we say.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
I like when LA is used in sort of that way, kind of like Drive or Collateral, two movies that really kind of made LA a character in itself, and gave you like a different version of what you normally think of LA, dark and gritty at times, and those movies were ultra successful, I think, at kind of framing LA in a different light than maybe people are used to thinking about it.
Yeah, and that's what Leighton does here. I mean, the opening shot that zooms in on the city is just like, what the heck is he doing here? And it's like, whoa, this is cool. This looks awesome. Like I said, the chase sequences. And what I really like about the chase sequences is that they're used sparingly. I think there are two actual chase sequences. sequences, and that's unusual for a heist film. And the quote unquote third chase sequence involves the two of the key characters going back and forth verbally,
Yeah.
and it all blends to a nice climax, and you could see Leighton weaving the stories into that climax. And
Yeah.
like I said, good film, could have been great.
Could have had a better title too, probably. I don't know. The title just seems kind of like just not with it, you know, like you got sort of this sleek looking thriller with a lot of great cast members, and then you call it like Crime 101. It just seems like a generic, almost like a generic Netflix title that, you know, they used to churn out back in the day.
In all fairness, though, it's the title is explained in Davis's background.
Okay.
So I get it, but I understand what you're saying too.
Well, great cast. It's good to see Nolte and Barry. I mean, Barry too. Like, you know, she's come out lately and talked about aging in Hollywood, but it's good to see that she's got a lot of projects in the pipe right now. She's really looking like she's getting ready for some revitalization of her career, which would be great to see. You know, Cleveland's own, an Oscar winner, you know, get back out there and start to dominate the screens again.
You know, she purposely, I think, toned it down after that Academy Award win. I mean, and that's fine. You're right. We don't see her enough. I think the last thing I remember her seeing was an X-Men movie. That's the absolute last thing I remember seeing her in. I'm sure there's been other stuff. She's to be shallow, she's still beautiful, but she's a great actress. And I think to a certain degree, Hollywood has underestimated her over the years.
I think so too. And hopefully they will learn a lesson here with this one. So it's good to see another winter release that might be worth people's time, which is good to see. And now we have some more streaming. I know that this was a show that you enjoyed a couple of years ago now when it came out, Cross, which is the Alex Cross character getting a Amazon Prime original series run. First season came out in 2024, and kind of a long wait, but sometimes you get that in TV nowadays with how, I guess, the spectacle now that TV has become with certain shows. It almost takes a couple of years now to go from one season to another. But what did you have a thought?
Well, something I read recently said the streamers would like these limited series to pump up the production on a yearly basis as opposed to every other year. So
I get that, but then, you know, and I haven't watched the first season of Cross, but, you know, an example probably would be like Wednesday on Netflix, you know, had an ultra successful first season, couple of years or a year and a half hiatus, and then a season 2. And then now, even though they're already shooting season 3, there's a lot of report that it's going to be a couple of years before we see, or maybe end of 2027 before we see that. And I think you're looking at shows, you know, some shows are quick turnarounds where, you've always been able to shoot dozens of pages every day in certain TV genres, but now you're starting to get into like a little bit more complexity, especially with visual effects and things like that are going on. So it's really kind of hard to do that, churn it out year after year, isn't it? Unless you're investing into that production team, getting things done quicker and maybe adding more to the production team to do so.
Network television producers did it for years. I'll counter with that statement.
But did they do it to that level? And I'm not saying that, well, you know, I'm saying if there is a visual effects element or a fight sequence or, you know, CGI, for instance, in like a Disney Plus, you know, Star Wars show, it's harder to churn that out quicker than it is to churn out like Law and Order SVU, where they can shoot like 4 episodes in a week probably because of what they're able to do.
They don't shoot 4 episodes in a week.
I know they don't. It's a little bit of hyperbole, I know, but you know what I mean, though, where you can shoot TV pages a little quicker, especially when there's not a lot of extra elements to it that you have to go in with post-production.
On one level, you're right. With effects laden series, sure, you're right. But something like a Cross, even a Reacher, I
Okay.
mean, no, it's like you can do those yearly, especially considering, and I'll go back to mentioning network television, because at one point, back in the good old days, network TV, 24 episodes a season.
Yeah.
And here, in most cases, you're dealing with 8 to 10 episodes. So
right.
if it's not effects laden, and not a lot of network television was, I can think of at one point Battlestar Galactica.
Sure. Yeah.
So I get it in that case. That's
a good
the
point.
original
I mean,
version.
yeah. It does some of that have to do too with, you have a good first season, and you don't know what the future will hold on a show like Cross when it first comes out. All of a sudden it's popular and you're like, okay, we're green lighting a season 2. Well, now you've got to go to the drawing. Now, I'm sure the showrunners and creators probably have ideas of what they'd like to explore, but then there's probably got to be a little bit of a push and pull on, okay, well, what does the studio / streamer want? And then also what kind of a budget are they giving us? Because we might have lofty goals for a season 2, but if they're saying, yeah, we're not doing that, but you can do this, then you got to kind of start from scratch on, writing your 8-episode, show.
Well, I will say to you that this second season was basically greenlit immediately after Cross debuted. So and just like The Lincoln Lawyer was greenlit for season 5 ahead of its premiere last week. So
no excuses there, right? I mean, I completely agree that I would love to see quicker turnarounds year in and year out. That would be great. I think everybody would, because you can capitalize on the popularity. Like the White Lotus has been frustrating, because now I know that they had some different circumstances, but they had 3 years in between season 2 and season 3. So it was really like, man, you're kind of waiting, and it's a good thing that the show is ultra popular, that people were willing to wait and were patient with it. But it's like, it's also kind of frustrating when you're like, oh, I'd love to get back into this. And, there's a lot that can go into the White Lotus, and you want them to do it the right way. But, 2 or 3 years in between seasons, and they're just now talking about the next season after last season premiered last year. And you would think that they would, they knew they were going to have another season. So why not get rolling on something? But, I think everybody would love to see year in and year out reproduction.
I think it's because Mike White is on the new season of Survivor. So.
That's true. That is true. I forgot he was on Survivor. I forgot about that. But yeah, well, okay. So we're in on Cross here. It's and the first season did come out like in November 2024, so it's like a year and a half ish kind of turnaround for season 2. But I know you enjoyed the first season. We've seen this character in different iterations in Hollywood movies throughout the years. But what do you think of season 2 here on Prime?
A confession: I got through 3/4 of season 1, and then I had to move on to other stuff for work. So
sure.
Before I started season 2, however, I finished season 1, and let me just say that I was overwhelmed at how much better it got from episodes. They really amped up the tension. That's the best way to put it. From episodes 5 through 8. Right. And it really proved to be very satisfying. Now, I'm 3 episodes in now, and this has all the hallmarks of doing the same thing. And I found that I like this version because it's Alex Cross before he was the Alex Cross we came to know in those movies. You know what I mean? It's like a prequel of sorts, and it makes it even more different because Aldous Hodge, the actor who portrays Cross, is so physically imposing. I mean, before, when you thought of the character, you were, and I don't know how many people watched the first couple of Cross movies. I always identified the character with Morgan Freeman, who is nobody's idea of physically imposing.
Right.
I mean, it was the brain element. Now we're seeing that how he develops his sixth sense or whatever it is, and it's riveting so far. Matter of fact, I watched 2 episodes this afternoon before the after the Burbs. Yeah, so Aldous Hodge is great. They're after a serial murder, and you can tell it's a case that is loosely influenced. I can't even say loosely influenced by the Epstein files. So
Okay.
there we go. I'm enjoying it so far.
Okay. So another thing for people to watch. Are you watching anything else? You mentioned the Burbs. Are you able to talk about the Burbs?
I can talk about it because it's premiered.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still out on it. I mean, it stars Keke Palmer. Faces that many people will recognize and names they won't know, other than Julia Duffy, who's coming back from, what was it, 80s or 90s sitcom success to portray a neighbor in this fictional, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Hell, it's an all-white suburb mostly. and Keke Palmer and her British husband come to live in it, and they're his parents' home there. He grew up there, and you know, it's so far it's trying to do a lot as far as satirizing that racial divide, I guess, as well as satirizing, poking fun at what's going on in the suburbs, and doing the same with murder mysteries or nosy neighbors. And you know, it for something that dark, it just feels right now too glossy for me. You know what I mean? It's on Peacock,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it's a mandate from. I don't know if these streaming services mandate how their shows are supposed to look. Because every time I watch anything on Peacock, bright, 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 bright. You know, the production the production design never seems to fit the mood of the piece. And that's what I'm getting right now. And it's kind of off-putting.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's part of the process. It's not just the cast or the writing. You know, everything's got to come together in that sort of cohesive package. And you know, sometimes things, even smaller things than even production design, can be off-putting. So I don't blame you there. And I will say, you know, looking at the trailers, because obviously it's been, you know, pushed pretty heavily by Peacock while you're watching the Super Bowl or the Olympics, and it kind of did look a little like overly produced, maybe could be a word to say just from the trailers. But I mean, obviously Keke Palmer's got a lot of energy. Loved her in Nope, but you know, probably something people should skip, or do you think people should maybe hang around and check out all 8 episodes?
This is one I'd say check out the first 3 episodes and see if it was you. If it's for you. You know what I mean? Oh, true story. Yeah. I interviewed Keke Palmer for Akilah and the Spelling Bee, was it? When she was like 11. Yeah. 11. Yeah. I had a 1-on-1. Well, it was 2-on-1. Her father was there. So
yeah. Hard to believe she's come a long way, but loved her in Nope. She had a lot of energy in Nope. She was, you know, and obviously when you work with people like Jordan Peele and get that, you know, screenplay, it's a very interesting movie. And, you know, she had a lot of energy, and she's always kind of a screen presence. Like, she demands your attention on screen.
Well, she's a presence, and she's turning into a little mini mogul too, because she does her own. She produces, and production is the key to power.
Absolutely.
So there we go.
That is true. All right. Anything else that you've been watching or catching up on, or now that football season's over?
I'm still mourning football season. Oh, let's see what I got coming up. Monarch is back on the 23rd. I wonder if that's available to me yet. You ever watch Monarch?
I have not, even though I've liked from a I guess from a tonal standpoint, I've liked sort of how they've approached the MonsterVerse lately. With Godzilla and King Kong, and especially King Kong. I think they've found sort of a fun footing, being in that B movie territory. And of course, Godzilla versus Kong was like, an hour and 40 minutes of monsters fighting, which was, exactly what you would want from that. And you don't need a lot of exposition when it's Godzilla versus Kong. So, I've liked it, but I have not really gotten into the show yet. Even though I know what Kurt Russell's in that with his son, and I'm kind of intrigued by Kurt Russell being on screen. But yeah, I haven't gotten into the show yet, but it might be something I might check out one of these days.
Um, Beyond that, I have to look ahead to what I have access to.
Okay.
Um, there is a JFK bio series coming out, JFK Jr., I should say.
Okay.
We'll see if I take a look at that. It's produced by Ryan Murphy, so I'm hoping for it. It doesn't have a lot of cheese to it.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And something that intrigues me, and I don't know if you've ever seen Young Sherlock Holmes.
I have not. No.
Christopher Columbus. I think that was Chris Columbus. I could be wrong. At any rate, there's an Amazon series coming out. Now, Steven Spielberg produced that movie. Damn, that movie is 41 years old. I saw it in theaters. No, that was directed by Barry Levinson. But
wow. Okay.
Amazon Prime is doing a series, and I'm interested to see what they do with it. So that's up on the horizon.
Wow, the young kid, or the young, I guess I don't know if he's a young kid. I guess he's more of an adult. He's got a goatee, but the guy that plays Sherlock is Hero Finds Tiffin, or Finds Tiffin. Hero Finds Tiffin. That is like the sweetest name ever, right there. That's pretty cool. So, yeah, I mean, it sounds fun. Are you going to see the new Glenn Powell movie? What's next week? How to Make a Killing? Is that on the docket, or is that that's? I know that's an A24 movie, but
A24 doesn't even do screening links.
Really?
So no.
Okay.
All
right. Well,
no.
We're getting closer to March, so we're kind of rolling along here until we actually get to see some movies that maybe are worth watching. I was kind of surprised. Hoppers was a movie that I think I've heard about before, but usually, Pixar is not getting in on the March release now. Is this sort of a change of pace for them?
They're kind of up to two a year now. Spring. And,
yeah, I guess that's true.
And summer or Christmas, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Summer and Christmas, but I think that's their one of two releases this year, along with Toy Story 5.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm sure that'll be a June or whatever release. And
I mean, the last one I remember in March was that. Oh God, the one about the brothers.
Luca.
No. In the van.
No?
In the van.
Oh, Onward?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
I guess they also had Turning Red came out in the spring too, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I guess maybe I've just missed the boat on that, but maybe it's just because it came out of nowhere. I think I've seen the slot was taken up by Pixar, but I didn't know. It just seems like this movie's kind of come out of nowhere for me, as far as this is what it is. A movie about a robotic beaver, I guess. I don't know.
A robotic beaver.
We'll see.
Okay. I haven't looked at that.
It says a 19-year-old animal lover uses technology that places her consciousness into a robotic beaver to uncover mysteries within the animal world beyond her imagination.
Okay.
That's a lot. That's a mouthful right there for Pixar.
Yes, it is. I'm beginning to wonder if Ralph or Hero Finds Tiffin is somehow related to the finds of England, but apparently
Oh,
not. No,
well,
he is
that'd
not.
be fun.
Martha Fiennes is, yes, he's a nephew to Ralph Rafe. He prefers Rafe.
Right. Yep.
So there we go.
Okay. Well, sounds good. All right. Well, as always, we appreciate you stopping by. We hope you have fun watching at home, I guess, this week. But as always, you can read everything that George writes at George at beaconjournal.com. You can follow George everywhere on socials, wherever he's at. You can watch his reviews as well, which is a nice little thing if you don't have time to read. Although, you should read his reviews. They're always fun to read as well. But George, thanks for stopping by. We appreciate your time, and we hope you have fun watching streaming, movies, all things pop culture this week.
I plan to.